Hey, what's going on, guys? Zedd here, bringing you another Soul Calibur 6 video. Apologize for the late upload. I'm just getting over a bad cough, so I still kind of have it, but it's manageable. So I'm going to try to get through this video. So there will be a little bit of coughing. I apologize right now for that. Today's video is going to be giving you top 5 tips that I have for those who want to maybe get into the competitive scene, or people who have really inflated egos and are like, yeah, I'm so much better than these online scrubs. Where's the good players at? Right. And I run into so many people every day online, Reddit, Discords, my streams, even on the ranked ladder, who you can tell there's someone who's just like, man, let me just turn my brain off real quick. I'm going to use all these different setups and I'm just going to like 3B, I'm going to Oki you. I'm going to 3B, I'm going to Oki you, right? Like they're people who are autopiloting the rank system and taking advantage of other players. And they're like, man, these players suck. And yet somehow people like this are still managing to get to A1 and S1, which blows my mind. But anyway, so this video is going to be for those people who need a bit of an ego check, or people who do want 5 helpful tips at becoming a better player, or things to consider before you take it to that next level, that offline environment. Okay. So now this one's, like I said, is not going to be quite as philosophical, but it is still very important. So I hope that you guys do take something out of this video, regardless of your skill level. So again, top 5 tips. Let's get right into it here with number 1. So my first tip is going to be learn how to feel out the opponent. Now, that might sound kind of like obvious to some people, but you have to remember that even though this is a fighting game, it is still derived from fighting-based fundamentals and concepts that you need to apply, that you apply in the real world. For example, with boxing, right? A very simple martial art, in terms of what's allowed and what's not allowed, right? And so one of the common things you'll see is they'll just start jabbing forward, right? They'll just extend their arm just to kind of gauge you, distance you, right? Spacing, feel you out, see if the opponent's willing to strike back or just wait, right? All that kind of stuff, moving around the ring, all that stuff is feeling out the opponent. That's what it is. That's essentially what neutral is. But it's a word like neutral. People get really overwhelmed. They're like, neutral, like ranges and whiff punishment and all that stuff. That's all fighting game stuff. But like a real world concept that a lot of players forget about and forget to apply to their in-game play is feeling out the opponent. So what that means, that is completely separate from neutral, by the way. What that means is things like, you might also hear the word check, right? Oh, I checked him to make sure he wouldn't hit buttons, or I checked to make sure he didn't do this, or I checked to make sure he didn't step. For example, right? If I want to do, 5BB, wait, right? Both the follow-ups to this move for Xianghua are steppable. So if the opponent steps, right, then I know that that's what they're going to do. That's a check. That was one small way that I have now felt out my opponent. Okay? Or, I know they're going to step after the second slash, right? So I get mental advantage and I slow their response down by doing that, right? So I swing once instead of twice, and they're like, oh yeah, I'm supposed to step here, / counter hit damage, right? So you're feeling out the opponent, you're just poking, right? You're seeing what they do in response to what you do, and so take it slow, right? That's what I'm trying to say here, is don't just be like, okay, and we're playing online, right? And you just cycle people, right? Because like, what are you gonna learn from that? What are they gonna learn from that, right? Like, I could constantly hit buttons, but like, I'm not benefiting from that, right? So slow it down, feel them out, poke, play neutral. If I 4B, what are they gonna do? Are they gonna duck for the 4BB, or are they gonna like block for the 4BA? Are they gonna GI right away? Like, what is their first response? You want to flex moves that put the opponent in different scenarios that force them, that force a response. So situations that elicit a response from your opponent. That's what playing neutral is, but that's also what feeling out your opponent is. Okay, so if that's not clear, I could go into more detail with that with you in the comments or whatever, but the idea is use moves to see what the opponent does in response to you, right? A cause and effect relationship. So that's my first tip. Again, feeling out the opponent, try to get used to it. You see it in high level all the time, and that's where a lot of this movement comes into play, or just kind of random pokes. A lot of 2A, this move's a very good check move, because, well, a lot of reasons, but this move is very good at checking the opponent. Okay? Tip number 2 would be just GIing in general, but either if you're someone who GIs too much, stop GIing so much. If you're someone who doesn't even know, like who never even uses the input, use GI. So what GIing accomplishes is it's essentially your counter or your parry mechanic. Imagine playing a game like Dead or Alive and you never use holds. Or imagine playing a game where you just like never use your shield, or playing a game like imagine high level Tekken with no low parries, right? If you don't flex these kind of counter options against the opponent, they're never going to feel uh, pressured to stop pressuring, right? So what I mean by that is if you're not forcing them to slow down their game, they're not going to, right? It's that simple. Like, sure, you might jab him, like, and then you jab trade, jab trade, like, I swing, she swings, I swing, she swings, I swing, she swings, etc. But in order to break this monotonous jab trade situation that you see a lot in lower level gameplay, you have to GI. Like, if I swing into a GI, all of a sudden now I force the opponent to be like, whoa, wait a second. Now I'm getting lethal hit for 100 damage. Hold on, I have to think twice now about swinging, right? Landing a couple successful GIs really turns the tide of the mental war into your advantage, because it forces the opponent to second guess themselves, and even if it's for a fraction of a second, if you second guess yourself, you're donezo. It's over, right? On the flip side, someone who always just jab, GI, poke, GI, jab, GI, right? Not good, because you can equally get as predictable and punished accordingly. Okay? So, tip number 2 would be if you don't GI, use GI. If you GI, stop GIing. Right? And you probably don't know who you are, but just go back and watch the replay. How many times are you seeing this green flash on your screen? I would say if you're GIing any more than about, now this is absolutely not a hard rule, but if you're GIing more than once or twice around, stop. Cut that in half, right? See if you can go a whole game with GIing once, right? And likewise, if you watch a couple of replays and you haven't GI'd once, pick it up. Try using GI at least once around. Get familiar with it, get comfortable with it, learn why and when you'd want to do it, understand the risks involved with it, and learn about your character's post-GI situation. What that means is after you've landed a successful GI, what are you going to do? Okay, so that's tip number 2. Tip number 3, proactive defense. This kind of is in tune with tip number 2. Proactive defense just means stop just blocking. Soul Calibur is a very, very flexible and creative game when it comes to playing defense. You have so many options to work with. First of course, being GI. But there's also reverse ledge. There's good movement, very accurate movement too. You can duck things, you can jump things, you can step things, you can backstep things, right? You have evasive moves themselves, some moves that automatically crouch, like 2K or 2A, moves that automatically jump, like 9K, or moves that do sidestep and ducking at the same time, like 1B plus K, right? Things like this, moves like this, right? Backstep moves, or sidestep moves, or crouching moves, right? Be a little more proactive. Don't just hold G, right? Learn what your character's evasive moves are. Learn how to use GI. And also with that said, don't let the opponent get free turns. So throw some 2As here and there, right? Or throw your AA or your 5K. Depending on what your fastest poke is, it's going to depend on your character. But generally it's 5A, 5K, or 2A. Those are generally the fastest moves in the game. And just try to really get the opponent to slow down a little bit, right? Instead of just holding block, because there is a guard gauge in this game, but it's also, you're not learning anything really by blocking. So you want to learn situations where and why you can step to avoid a string, or maybe crouch to avoid a high ender, or backstep attack to avoid a short range series. For example, like if I have AAA, right? If I used 4-4B at a precise moment, I could evade the attack and then hit her for it. Okay, so like for example, okay. So tip number 3 is to be more proactive on your defense. Tip number 4, as awful as it is, start learning frame data. So this is almost a requirement if you start going into the competitive world, because numbers like if you're -4 or -8 or +2, all those numbers become so much more relevant when the opponent knows them as well, or when both you and your opponent know each other's frame data, or at least some of it, right? Now, I'm not going to sit here and tell you I know every character's frame data off of every single move. I certainly don't, but I do know majority of the frame data for Xianghua and majority of the punishable attacks by other characters, right? It's about understanding situational awareness. It's about understanding why the math works or why it doesn't work, why clash setups happen. I have a video on that. Go check that out if you don't understand clashes or frame data, right? I have resources there for you to help out with this kind of stuff as well. But number 4 is to learn frame data. The last tip I can tell you right now is, if your only exposure to Soul Calibur is online, stop thinking that you're some god because you're beating people online with moves like, say, Sophidia's 1AA, okay? Or things like Sophidia's 1AA hold unblockable, okay? Or when you hit people with the shockwave of this, no, no, no. No, 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 no. Okay? No, no, no. You're taking advantage of the fact that blocking low online is much harder to do because of the fact of the native delay, or sometimes there's lag, right? Or the game is like the frames are a little choppy, right? So your response to the low is delayed sometimes by 4 to 6 frames, and you end up getting hit by really, really slow lows, right? Right. So that's just one example. Or things like some characters are more privy to it than others. Or if you're someone who's just like playing a stance character and you're just fucking mashing and cycling stances, like maybe you're playing Nightmare in a way that you're just literally cycling Grimstride or his other stances over and over and over and over. Uh, or Siegfried, same thing. Amy, Maxi, same thing. If you're a player like that, I can tell you right now it doesn't work. So stop, right? If you're, or Talum even, same thing. Stop flying across the screen, only using your stances, because it doesn't work. Okay, I'm gonna tell you that right now. It's just that kind of a play style thrives in an online environment. Stances have a place, but they cannot be spammed. You cannot play a character like a stance-based character and always be in stance. It doesn't work. Okay. So again, tip number 5 would be chill out with your online crap. All right. Songmina and Tira have some of the best online lows in the game. Now, am I saying that it's never going to hit offline? No, I'm not. But what I am saying is it's very unwise of you to create your game plan around these online lows, because as soon as you get to an offline environment and you're like, wait, what the heck? Why is the opponent blocking majority of these and punishing me every single time? Now what do I do? Well, now you're screwed because you haven't learned to play the game any other way. All right, so those are just kind of like 5 things that I've come across, or things that stuck out to me, right, throughout all this, quarantine BS happening right now. I've been playing a lot of online, and it's just something that I see so much. Or attitudes come up on Twitter or in people's messages, like, "Oh man, I only lost because of this," or "Oh man, I'm so good I can take on pros." It's like, okay, sure, yeah, right. So this video, like I said, it's a little more informal, and it's almost like low-key rant, but there are 5 tips for you. Hopefully they're helpful to some people. And if you're someone with the ego who's like, this guy doesn't know what he's fucking talking about, then come fight me, bro. Okay? I've got the game on PS4 and PC. If you're one of those like, I'm such a tough guy, these ranked players are scrubs, then I will challenge you to prove it to me that you're not just some online scrub. All right. So thanks, guys. Again, I'm sorry for the cough, but I did want to get just a little video out. I didn't really have anything set up, so I just kind of threw something together. But I hope you guys are staying safe and healthy, and I'll catch you on the next one. Have a good day.